it's like really important information that people understand what they're really getting into.
In Italian, they say fare sangue amaro, which is make your blood get sour. I found myself jobless. I didn't know what to do with myself.
You have been through it all. Do you have any advice for people, a way that they can reclaim their professional self once they leave their home country and maybe their old career?
That good things happen because people work hard. You got to be told no a lot of times. It's a struggle, but it's about knowing that you can build a life with a career for yourself wherever you are.
What's like one thing you would recommend that they get in order to survive the first month abroad?
Okay, so
Hi, Rosamaria. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
hey there, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
In my research for this episode, just kind of looking into you, I kind of come to see you as like a quintessential foreigner abroad. It seems like all the things that, you know, that kind of the memeified expat experience, things like loneliness and making friends and trying to stay connected with family at home and losing a parent abroad. You sort of have been through it all. And so I'm really interested in kind of in picking your brain about some of these things, because as I see the world sort of changing and middle class Westerners are, you know, increasingly disenchanted with life at home and they're looking for other things to do and other places to go. It's like really important information that people understand, like what they're really getting into. Because
Sure.
When after that honeymoon phase ends, kind of life can kind of smack you in the face
Exactly.
when you're abroad. So what were like 2 or 3 habits that kept you composed when you first moved to Italy?
So when I first moved to Italy, I think the one thing that helped me stay composed was, in essence, I had to find my peace in Italy, which wasn't easy, and it took a long time. So there wasn't like a specific habit I picked up. I mean, when I moved to Germany, that's when I picked up my podcast habit. That really helped me. But in Italy, it was about sort of calming down, because I was always like, I was very enamored with Italy and very enamored with Rome because it is such a beautiful city. But living in Rome was really challenging. And I was always kind of upset, because I was upset that the buses weren't working well because I had to go to work. And then I was upset when there were train delays. And then I was upset when there were lines at, like, the post office. And not because I was always like, that's kind of my personality, but I was just so used to a different way of doing things. Not that everything is perfect in New York or in the US, but things seem to just run a little bit more efficiently, as opposed to the Roman style, which was very relaxed and very laid back. So it took a while for me to actually calm down, because what I realized is that nobody else around me was really upset. So I was like the only one who was like up in arms, like, why is the train delayed again? Or, why are there 100 people in front of me at the post office? Like, this is insanity. And the Italians were like, just, this is the way it is. And we're not gonna, in Italian, they say fare sangue amaro, which is make your blood get sour. They were like, we're just going to go with the flow. So in essence, it took several years, but I found my peace. And I think I found that peace by just accepting where I was. And I learned that as an expat, that, like, it's not going to obviously be like home, and things will run different. And I wasn't going to be the one to fix them or to make them my way. So it took a while for me to get to that point, but eventually I did. And it was really just through learning and experiencing the situation, but then also just talking to local people and seeing what they did and how they reacted to those situations. And they were reacting much differently than me. So I kind of picked up those habits and I calmed down. And then I enjoyed my life in Italy a lot more, than opposed to being, flabbergasted by things. So Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to like, sort of like, yeah, lean on what the locals do, because we experienced something like very similar to here. Like there's a very like laissez-faire attitude in the
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean and in Belize. And I mean, one of the local islands, their motto is "Go slow," and you
Oh, I
definitely just
like
have
that.
to get used to that pace. And honestly, and it's just like the transportation isn't great here, so people are late, and like no one is really judged. You know, if you're late for work because there's no bus, like that's just everybody else is also late because there's no bus. So it's like, what's the point in getting so hung up on it? But it
Mm-hmm.
definitely was a learning curve for us too, to be because we kind of, when we came to Belize, it was like a little bit of like a going back in time. It reminded us of being like in the 80s as kids, when like things closed on the weekends, right? And like you can't just go to the, to any store on a Sunday, because people actually close down and go to church, and and spend time with family. So it's been yeah, so I can totally relate to that. Yeah, having to try to find that piece, and yeah, and just kind of, you take a page out of the local book, right? It's just, if they're not worried, then why should we be worried, right? One of the things or themes of in your work is isolation, and this is
Mm-hmm.
something that comes up a lot too in Substack groups and some of the other guests I've had on. And it's just, I guess a lot of times it's, people aren't used to that from back at home, and then you move abroad, and then all of a sudden you find yourself, no friends and no community. What's the kind of some of the early warning signs that you discovered, when, as you like slip into isolation?
Um, I think from a warning sign perspective, I mean, when I moved to from Italy to Germany, I mean, in Italy I spoke Italian already, so I kind of was easier to sort of fit in per se. But when I came to Germany, I didn't know anything about the German culture. I have to be honest with you. It wasn't like on my bucket list of places that I wanted to go see or visit. And I also didn't speak any German. So um, I really, found myself just like a fish out of water. So I couldn't really communicate anywhere. My husband was going to work because we moved with our family. So my husband went to work. And then I found myself, jobless because I left my job in Rome. So I was trying to figure out where I was. And then I had a young daughter at the time, and she went off to school, and I was kind of just by myself. And I didn't know what to do with myself, meaning I, I was like, where am I going to go? There isn't a piazza here. It's not Italy where it was just a different social aspect. So I,
And sorry, what's a piazza? Just
a
for,
piazza, like a town square,
okay.
like a
So
town
you can you,
square.
so you could just go there and just hang out, and you would probably
Yeah,
just
because
chat
there'd
to
be like a
people.
there'd be a coffee shop, and then you would just socialize, and there was at least some place to walk to. But when I was in Germany, I just, I was in a rural part of Germany,
Mm.
with like cows and bison, and I was like, where am I? What am I doing here? And I didn't have any friends. So I knew that something wasn't right and that I wasn't feeling really good about myself, which is the truth. So I was like, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I couldn't call my mother and my sister like a million times a day and be like, I mean, they were like, okay, we have to go now. We have jobs and lives. And so I found that if I took some walks around my rural neighborhood, which I did notice that a lot of local people were doing, but if I kind of started to listen to something, at least I had a voice in my ear. So I kind of like became more enamored with podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to find the ones that could actually help me through my experience in Germany. And that being, ones about dealing with issues that have to do with being isolated or being alone, or, stuff about parenting, because I was constantly worried about my daughter. So I found that like through podcasts, and curating my list of podcasts, that I could find those voices that I needed that could help me actually get through the issues that I was experiencing at that time. So I was listening to like NPR's Life Kit to find out like what do I need to do about certain situations? And I'm really enamored with news and journalism. So I was listening to podcasts like The Daily because I wanted to get my fix of, New York news, but then also big stories. So the podcast really became my life buoy. They really became this go-to medium for me to help myself through this period. And I mean, there's lots of studies about this in podcasts, but the listeners actually think that those podcasters are kind of like their friends, because the idea is that you hear that voice all the time. You don't know them, but you hear the voice, and that voice is a familiar voice. It's one you recognize. And then they're also giving you information that is helpful, or maybe just making you laugh, because I also needed to laugh in that period. And it was like, where am I going to laugh? So let me listen to a comedy podcast. So, I realized that I wasn't doing great because I was, just kind of beside myself. And then I found that podcasts could help fill some voids for me. And they really did. They actually helped me get through probably one of the most difficult periods of my life, because I felt so much more connected to my roots. To be honest with you, I felt connected to New York. I felt connected to issues that I cared about. I just, it was really just a lifeline. And obviously I'm a big fan of them still, but they really helped me get through that period of when I felt, alone and isolated. And as you get a little bit older, because I moved to Germany when I was in my late 30s, it's harder to make friends when you get older. You become pickier. And then if you're in a country where you don't speak the language, it's even harder to sort of communicate with people. So it's challenging. It's challenging. And you also friendships are really valuable and important. And of course you have your family and your nucleus, and they're obviously super important, but those other friendships are also really important. So in that case, I couldn't find them physically, but I was able to find them through podcasts virtually. So
that's great. Just like kind of recognizing that disconnect, right? And you're able to fill the void. And I totally agree. Like podcasting definitely helped me in a earlier stage in my life when I had a failing marriage, and it was like what really actually helped me to like get the confidence and to remove myself from that situation. Just listening to, actually I was in NPR was always or their suite of podcasts they're really well done. And I can't, what was it, I think it was the TED Radio Hour they used to do that. And that one was instrumental in just getting all these different perspectives and just having those friendly voices like constantly in your ear, and it's almost like they were just encouraging you to like to take that step and kind of and do something for yourself.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Just touching back on, you were just talking about how you get pickier when you're older and abroad. And a previous guest, Elizabeth Coleman, she lives in Switzerland. She kind of talked about too, like you just have a smaller like pool of people available to you too, right? So, and it's like, and often what comes is is like, or common denominator just becomes the language you speak. But like anywhere else back home, that wouldn't be a reason to be necessarily a friend with somebody. So
sure. Yes.
It's definitely like an interesting concept, right? Once you move abroad, like those types of things become a reason to be friends with somebody. So what's your sort
it's
of,
quite funny. Yeah, it's like, oh, they're English speaking. Oh, we can be friends. And then you have like absolutely nothing in common with them. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, and they're also like, wait a minute, do I want this? So it's really, that's like the first barrier. It's like, okay, can you actually communicate? And then based on that, you move forward. But yeah, it's hard. It's really
and then you
hard. It's hard.
start talking to them, and then you're like, oh, you're some hardcore MAGA person or something. You're like,
You're like, well, we
no
can't be
thanks.
friends. Yes, that's not going to work. Exactly.
Just sticking with the kind of the friendship stuff. Another guest of mine, he talks a lot about this too, and he has this thing he calls social engineering. So it's like
Ooh.
actively making the effort to stay in touch with people or like make new friends. So do you have a specific approach you use then for making new friends? Is there like some sort of, like, he had like all this like these kind of categories and a little bit of a process, but I always like to get other people's opinions on this one.
Sure. I mean, I don't know if I have like a process. I mean, it does start pretty basic in terms of like obviously if we can communicate, but I think that like I mean, I'm a little bit of an introvert, so it's even harder for me because I'm
Hmm.
not the person at the party that is like socializing. I'm kind of in the corner hiding because I hate being in those situations. So it's even harder for me per se. But what I have done is that I realized that like living overseas, that I need to actually have friends because it's not enough to just have your intimate family because you also you need other people, and not having my extended family close by. They all live in New York and my husband's family lives in Italy. So I do make more of a concerted effort to make friends, and I do that through, I have to be honest with you, like through volunteering.
Hmm.
I do volunteer a lot at my kids' school so that like I can meet people and socialize with them, and at the same time like keep busy. I think that's like my strategy. So it's like I'm volunteering so I don't really have to talk that much because I also have something else to do, which works, so it's like I
Yeah.
put myself out there, but I also have something to occupy my time in case I feel like the conversation's going nowhere. So I do a lot of volunteering. um that's the biggest thing, and then I try to participate in local events as well, like even here in Germany there are a lot of local events. So, and we do have like German neighbors obviously,
Hmm.
so I try to go to those. Like there'll be like for example, something coming up is called the St. Martin Parade, where they actually put like a guy on a horse that's supposed to be St. Martin, and then he runs around the village. It's a little weird, but it works. But my neighbors will be there, so I'll go because then I'll chit
Hmm.
chat with them in our weird way of communicating. So I try to put myself out there in those ways. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's great, right? And that's what, yeah, like Gregory Garrison's taking, like that's like the social engineering, right? It's like you're doing something you wouldn't, back home you wouldn't necessarily have done, but you have to take that extra step, right? Because otherwise you do run the risk of just kind of isolating yourself and the kind of the ill mental health effects that kind of occur, with extended periods
exactly.
of isolation like that. And it's almost worse to be like, to feel isolated when you're like, at home with your family or something, right? And you still feel that isolation. I think, both my wife and I have kind of experienced a bit of this. And we have two young kids, and we moved when they were really young. So we spent a lot of like the first couple of years just with them at the house, because we couldn't really do a ton with young kids, and the community in which we
Sure.
moved wasn't like really kid friendly. But that's since gotten much better, because the kids are older now, and we do more things, and we've actually kind of noticed now we've kind of emerged, and all the other people that have like 3 and 5 year olds are also like kind of emerging, and we're just kind of like meeting people now for the first time, and the people that have been here for a long time, but they were
Okay.
also kind of going through the same thing, right? They had these young kids, and there wasn't a ton that they can do, and and they don't have that additional support of being at home, or in your home country with your family, and right, so it's like all the childcare is on you, and it takes a village, and you really kind of notice that when you don't have that village to help
It's
with your
true. It's
kids.
true. It's true.
And
We found that too as well. Like, I mean, our kids would, my kids would be kind of like, not anti people, but they were so used to just being us that
mm,
then they were like, when we were in these other social situations, they were like, well, what's going on? I remember my young daughter, like, she didn't want anybody to hold her as a baby because she was just so used to having me, because
mhm.
there was nobody else around. So, like, that is not good. That's not healthy. So, yeah, once they get a little bit bigger, you can actually get out.
Yeah.
and leave the nest, which is great.
You've hinted at, family a couple of times already, and obviously, your family back home is really important to you. How does like staying close to your family while abroad, like what does that look like for you?
Sure. I love them like everyone probably loves their family. So, and I miss them terribly. It's the hardest part of like being overseas. Sometimes I was like, of course I miss a New York bagel.
Hmm.
I'll have that any day. But I can survive without that. But the closeness of my family is the biggest struggle. And as I actually get older, it actually becomes harder. Like, it's like this big scene every time I'm at an airport and I'm coming back. The drama of it all, and it just gets harder because I
Hmm.
also you see that your your parents get older and they need you more, and you're not really there, so that's really hard. But what it looks like for me is constant contact. I mean, I talk to my mom every day. I need to talk to her, even if it's just like, hey, are you okay?
Hmm.
Even if it's like a 2-second conversation, I just need to hear her voice and know she's okay. It's the for me, it's the least that I can do, but it gives me a sense of peace just to know that she's good.
Hmm.
So it means constant contact with them. It means that like I have kids who complain, which is very funny, that like they're like, oh, we only go to New York for holidays, or we only go to Naples. My husband is from Naples, in Italy. So that's what that's what life is like for us. So when we do have like extended vacation off from work, we actually choose to go see our families. So I usually spend most of my summers in New York. On my holidays that I have from work, I go to New York, and then we'll spend other holidays with my husband's family. So we switch it up, but that's really what it looks like. And granted, like when you're in Europe here, it's the like this the distances are quite small, so it is possible for us to like travel locally. I live on the German Dutch border, so if I like in 15 minutes I can be in the Netherlands. And I'm only about like 2 hours from Amsterdam, so we do take advantage of weekends to travel a lot through Europe and see different places. But I have to say that, we dedicate our time to our families that are far away. So that means, spending, summer holidays, we're packing up, we're going to New York. That's when it's going to be. So that's what that relationship looks like. But it's hard. It's hard to be away from them, and it's hard not to have that kind of support. And I also I grew up in a family where we were very close with my aunts and my uncles. So my kids don't have that, which is unfortunate, because I loved that. I loved going to my grandmother's house, and then everybody would show up there and we'd eat together. So my kids don't have that, which is unfortunate for them. So that's hard. But we do try to make the best of the extended time that we have off, and that means visiting family. So they can complain all they want. They're going to have to deal with it. So, yeah,
I mean, you've probably already answered this question, but
sure.
I often ask people when we get on this topic just about like kind of guilt. I've always kind of
Mm.
felt a little bit guilty because I just, we moved and my kids were so young, and I've taken them away from really like my mom, their Oma, and so that I'm always kind of like, yeah, like, do you experience any of that, and like how do you balance that for yourself, like? And I like, for me, I kind of tell myself like, oh, well, my parent or my mom, and like her family, for one, they came from Netherlands. They moved abroad.
Mm.
They moved to
Okay.
Canada.
Okay.
So their parents like separated from their own family essentially because they had lots of family still back in the Netherlands. And then my family from Nova Scotia, they moved just into a different province in Canada. So
Okay.
my way to justify it is like, I'm just kind of doing the same thing. There's a tradition here, um,
Right.
like kind of unspoken tradition that I'm sort of tapped into, and I'm sort of continuing it along. But it still doesn't really make all the guilt go away. So I was just wondering, yeah, if you kind of feel any of that, and how how you kind of parse that out.
I'm guilt ridden all the time. I have a lot of guilt. And I don't know if it's because I'm Catholic, but I am full of guilt. So we have a lot of guilt. But yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if there's like a strategy that I use to sort of like deal with that, but I try to do like what I can. So from as far away as I am. So what that means might be like, if my mom is like struggling with something and she's like, oh, I have to make this doctor's appointment, I'll call. Like I'll make a phone call for her. And if
Mm.
she's, I don't know, she needs something done in her online banking, I'm like, no, 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 I'll go in there and I'll take care of it for you. So I try to do those, whatever I physically can do from afar. I do, which is not a lot. But then, it's also challenging because you have siblings and they're close by. So they're the ones who kind of do support and do help, obviously more than I can. So it's tough. It's tough. I mean, my parents are Italian immigrants. So when I first moved to Italy, it was like, I'm going back to your home country. I mean, really. And it was just supposed to be for a year. And then I was supposed to move back to New York. So that was a little bit easier. But sometimes when I'm here in Germany and sometimes they're like, what are you doing there? And
Mhm.
sometimes I ask myself, I'm like, I have no idea. But yeah, of course I know. But it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. And I don't know if that guilt will ever go away. And if they need me, like my phone is always available. I try to like be available when they call. But to be honest with you, I call more than they do. I'm always calling. I swear, I call all the time. I don't even probably give them a chance to call because I call all the time. And then I kind of get upset when they don't pick up too. I'm like, where have you been? I'm like, I've been trying to call you. So yeah.
So as we get older, we all experience death of loved ones, and it's sort of inevitable. Um, and I know you went through this, right, with your father.
Mm-hmm.
What helped you process that from afar? I know you went home, but still, right? There's still a grieving
Sure.
process that did the podcast come in helpful with this one as well? And if you're comfortable talking about this, then I'd love to hear.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it was obviously from a guilt perspective, not being close by when you have a sick parent and not being able to tend to them is very difficult. So it was super challenging. And then, when my dad was near about to sort of pass away, they kept him like on a ventilator so that I could get there.
Mhm.
And then it was like called CPAP, and it's kind of like, I mean, I write about it in my memoir, but it's kind of like they say it's like sticking your head out of like a car window when the car is driving at like 65 miles per hour. Like
Mhm.
that's what it feels like. So the fact that like he had to stay on that extra for me to go and say goodbye was just heart wrenching. Um, but um I did like I did turn to podcasts a lot following that. I mean, when you're living that moment, you're kind of just trying to get through it. And then it's kind of like a very surreal kind of moment. I don't, in the US, it's just such a process. Like when somebody passes away, there's like, a wake. And then there's this new thing now that like after the burial, like people go out for like lunch. So we all went
Mhm.
out to lunch with like a whole bunch of people. And then it was like, there was like 50 people and we all went
Mhm.
out to eat together. And I mean, I guess it's to celebrate, but it's just so weird. But we did all that, and I did all that. But then when I made my way back to Germany, I struggled a lot with how I was feeling, and not being there in those difficult times, and kind of just leaving all that to my mom and to my sister, and my other family members. So I did turn to podcasts a lot. I know there was a podcast called Dear Sugars. I don't know if you've heard that. It's a New York Times podcast, but it's kind of they just rerun it now in episodes. And it's really like what happens is people write in with like their issues, and then the hosts would just kind of address them.
Mm.
And I really like them because they're kind of like just really like, I don't want to say feel good podcasts, but they kind of like take a reader or a listener's issue and kind of just put it into perspective. Because what happens is like when you have an issue, for you it's like the biggest thing ever, but it was great because they take these sort of big issues and just kind of like put them into perspective from like a third party point of view. So I really liked Dear Sugars to begin with, but then they also had like episodes about grief and guilt.
Mm.
And I remember hearing one where they were like, you know, it's not like the quantity of time that you spend with the people that you love, it's that quality of that time.
Mm.
So even though like I couldn't be there all the time, like, you know, it was about thinking about like that quality time that I actually had with my dad,
Yeah.
when he was with my young daughter. Those, you know, 3 weeks that I would spend in New York, or 4 weeks that I would spend in New York every summer with my daughter at the time. Or like, even like, I mean, the whole thing with the phone, I did the same thing with my dad. So like I would call him all the time and he would, you know, complain that he wasn't feeling good, but I would listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of make time for that. So, you know, it was podcasts that kind of helped me to sort of put all of that guilt and grief into perspective. And I always remember that Dear Sugars episode because it was like, you know, you could live 30 minutes away, but if you're not like emotionally there, then, you know, what does that serve if you're 30 minutes away or if you're, you know, 3,000 miles away?
Mm-hmm.
So, at least from an emotional perspective, I could at least say that I was there, even if I wasn't always physically there. So that really helped me. And again, it was like, you know, putting like, you know, bacitracin on a bad cut. Do you know what bacitracin is? No,
No.
okay, that's like an American thing, but it's kind of like a healing ointment.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Okay, so like, you know, when your kids get cut and they have a bad bruise, you put this stuff on and it helps them. It like relieves the pain and helps it heal faster.
Mm-hmm.
In the US, it's called bacitracin. So
Okay.
it's like putting a little
Polysporin.
bacitracin. Polysporin. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So it's like putting that on like, it was like putting that on my wounds. So yeah, podcasts were really there for me. And then also like, you know, try how to fill that gap in your life, like, you know, also like, you know, not being like a daughter to this person, like not having a dad was really difficult. And, you know, I struggled with that, you know. And like, it's nice to have a dad. It was wonderful. And then to not have one anymore, was challenging. So, you know, again, I turned to podcasts and they were like, you know, you're always going to be somebody's daughter, no matter
Mm.
what, even if they're not physically on this earth. So like, you know, hearing those kinds of things, and like sometimes, you know, we're human beings and we need to hear that kind of stuff as much as like I want to tell myself like I'm strong, I've got it together. But also human. And like if someone says something to me at the right moment, at the right time, well then yeah, it'll have impact.
Yeah.
And for me, they did. Yeah, those podcasts did.
Yeah, and that's yeah, that's great advice too. Just the quality over quantity, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely gonna. We're planning a trip back in about 4 or 5 months, so to Canada.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm definitely gonna take that one with me, and I mean, and just from day to day, and in general, right? That's a good way to look at things because yeah, I mean, you never really know what's gonna happen anyways, right? So just to always focus on that quality and you know, even if the quantity is also there, the quality is really what's most important.
What's important? It's true.
Another theme, I won't dwell on this too long,
Sure.
but thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. I know it's probably
Mm-hmm.
not easy thing to talk about, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you.
So you left a career in New York City. and started over abroad. This is something that I'm still wrangling with, even after 3.5 years of moving abroad. I'm still trying to find my feet sort of in new career. Do you have any advice for people that are making the move, that they can, a way that they can reclaim like their professional self, once they leave their home country and maybe their old career?
Yeah, it's a struggle. But it's about, sort of being resilient and knowing that you can like build a life uh, with a career for yourself. No, wherever you are. It's obviously not. It's not easy. I mean, I worked in journalism. I was a journalist, so New York is like the mecca of journalism. So Rome is not the mecca of journalism. But what that meant was that I needed to also reinvent myself a little bit. So from like being a journalist, I started teaching journalism. Then I started to move into communications, and then PR and media. So I think like you have to also be flexible in who you are and what you're willing to do, because your professional life will also evolve. Because careers evolve too. So what you may have been doing in your home country, might not be possible where you are now, but also know that that career has probably evolved and changed, because that's just the way things are. So you do need to be resilient. You do need to sort of, I don't want to say be aggressive, but you have to kind of be aggressive. You have to put yourself out there. I to find work, I sent hundreds of emails when I moved to Rome because I was like, I have to, find my way. So I had initially moved to Rome because I was working for the Wall Street Journal,
Hmm.
and then my year was up. And I was going to go back to New York. But then I met some people. I sent a bunch of emails, and I ended up getting a job at the Vatican and working in the press office for the Vatican. And that's when things, and which was like a fantastic opportunity. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Was it the Wall Street Journal? No, but it was completely different. It wasn't communications, but it was different. And I had to reinvent myself and learn new skills. But it turned out to be fantastic anyway. So it's really about resilience, putting yourself out there. You can make a career for yourself wherever you are, but you also have to be flexible and know that the dynamics are not going to be the dynamics of your home country. They're going to be different. But there's lots of opportunities out there. It's also sometimes a matter of creating them for yourself too,
Yeah.
building them for yourself,
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. We've definitely had to adapt, and yeah, we've kind of leaned into some passions, and my wife especially has done really well with it. She's a fine artist, and
Okay.
and yeah, she's made quite a career out of it so far, and she's constantly iterating because all this stuff with Trump tariffs, and it's actually like a worldwide issue. They, a lot of countries are just no longer sending packages and stuff to the US.
Sure.
And so that was hit her pretty hard because she was shipping out paintings, and which, yeah, that's now been stopped now for, I think we're coming up on like close to 3 months. But again, she's
Okay.
been able to adapt, and she's found like a new medium to work with that's easier to send. And so yeah, she's constantly adapting and iterating. So yeah, no, it's great advice for I mean, for me, yeah, I know it, we're living it, but for other
Yeah,
people
I
out
mean,
there who,
I heard from your story. I mean, you're a podcaster, but you used to be a general contractor. Is that right? Did I read that
mm-hmm,
correctly?
yeah,
Yeah. How
well,
cool is that?
yeah, this is
How,
I wouldn't say like I am a like I am a podcaster, but this is like
right.
pure passion project. I became
Okay.
a writer actually.
Okay.
So doing this like marketing content as well. And then I also recently have done some construction writing. So I've been leaning into my previous construction experience. So I've got a few
cool.
bylines in some trade magazines and stuff in Canada. And so I'm pursuing that a little bit as well. But yeah, it's constantly evolving, right? It's just, you kind of, somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, hey, do you want to write I saw something else you wrote for a website. Do you want to write an article like that for us, for our trade magazine? And then from there, I got some intros and wrote another trade magazine article. So, you never really know kind of where things are going to go, but you do have to, be willing to try new things and put yourself out there, right? I pretty much, as a general rule, I just share everything I've done at this point, right? Because you never know what, had I not shared that, that one article for that blog, essentially it was a Green Building Canada. That's how the trade magazine sort of got word. Had I not shared that, that was that lead, right? So I just put everything out there now, and for better or worse, but
exactly. And then like sometimes the opportunities come to you, they just they show up at your door, but it's because of a move that you made, which is to share, to put that content out there. And then it's a lot of hustling, right? You got to hustle, you got to move. But I mean, I think it's just like, good things happen. I always believe that good things happen because people work hard. Like it doesn't land on your doorstep. Like it doesn't, I'm a big believer that you got to put in the effort. You got to be told no a lot of times to eventually get those yeses. So it's really about being resilient and taking every no and be like, okay, what can I figure out from this? Oh, it stinks. It doesn't make me feel good, but I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to try again. And then I'm going to get my yes, so.
Yeah. And something that my wife and I always kind of throw around to is like the saying, an overnight success is 10 years in the making, right? So it's like you have to just constantly plug away, and then you kind of one day it's like everything just kind of will fall into place. But it takes all that work, right? You got a decade of work or so, or whatever. So,
and then when you're in the thick of it, you're like, oh, why is this happening? And then afterwards, like when you step back, you're like, oh, that's why that happened. I had to go through that in order to get to this, but that takes like, reflection and time, and probably like, a decade to figure out. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we even had like a shorter timeline of that sort of thing with, all the shipping short like delays or stop essentially, and my wife pivoted into something that actually has become probably so far her most successful thing. So actually like and she was quite worried at the time about not being able to ship out, but in hindsight now we can see, oh well, actually this is actually the better, like without that she might not have been doing this, but this is actually now probably the better thing.
So now she needs to thank Donald Trump.
I'll tell her that. Hey, baby, you should thank Donald Trump.
I do. Well, she should thank him, right? Could you imagine? Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So still pulling on that thread of adaptability, I can. You obviously speak Italian. Have you learned any German?
A little bit. I mean, I'm at beginner level German, so I can order food. I can go to the store. I can do basic things, but I'm a work in progress. Every once in a while, I get on this kick that I'm like, I need to be able to like speak really well, but I have such an American accent that it's really hard to like. I can't say the words; they're so like. And it's very difficult. But I'm making excuses. But no, I speak a little bit of German. I could speak more. I should speak more. Luckily, my kids speak German, so I kind of rely on them a lot. I mean, like to my 8-year-old, I'm like, "Can you come here? There's somebody at the door. I don't know what he's saying," and then my son will translate, or my daughter will translate. So they're great. But my German's così. Yeah.
I just had. I'm editing the episode, but I had Kirsten Cable on, and she's like, essentially language expert.
Oh,
So she has like an AI language course that she's developing and promoting right now that she uses to like help. Um, her focus is on adult learners.
okay.
So trying to remember now if I got some notes here still from the other day. What's it called? Oh, the AI Language Club, I believe is what it's called.
Okay.
So if
I'll
you want to
take that
check that
down.
out,
Yeah.
and she's actually originally German,
Okay.
and then she now lives in the UK and she speaks Welsh. She's taught herself to speak
Oh, wow.
Welsh of all things.
How
So
cool.
yeah, if you could
I'll
check
check it
that
out.
out.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's got German on there, given that that's her native language.
I'm good.
So yeah. Anyways, and she was the episode will be out in a little bit, but yeah, she had some great advice for language learning and stuff too. So for anybody who is that tickles their fancy, they can check that out when the time comes. But yeah, if you want to check that out for yourself,
Okay, I
I believe
will.
it's
I
AI
will.
Language Learning Club or AI Language Club. So you have 2 kids. I have 2 as well.
Okay.
What sort of challenges do you face like with kids? Do they like question wanting to go back to the US, or why are we
Here.
abroad? Our kids are still kind of young, but they're starting to like
Okay.
get it, and they're starting to ask
Okay.
like, oh, like why aren't we with the family, our Oma and Opa kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, and how do you, if you're experiencing that, like how do you sort of navigate that?
Sure. So, my son was born in Germany. He's my youngest. He
Mm,
was born here. So he's quite German.
mm,
So he's meticulous. If I'm like driving fast, he's like, the speed limit is 30 and you're going 40. So he's really like a rule follower, and that Germans are big rule followers.
mm,
They're unflexible people. They're
mm,
nice, but they're unflexible. They only follow the rules, and any breaking of the rules is a giant no-no.
mm,
So he's quite like adapted, and like if I say like every once in a while my husband and I will be like, we're going to Italy, we're moving back, and they
mm.
like cry because they
Oh.
don't want to go. And my daughter, she's 12, she's older. And she's I mean, she's at that age where she's kind of like my school and my friends and blah blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
so she's kind of like, yeah, she doesn't want to be removed from her element at all. But they obviously um, they have an interest in like our home countries, and I mean they sound like me when they
Mm,
speak English. So like they have like an American accent. It's quite funny. But they also speak Italian too,
mm,
and they speak Italian very well. But they speak Italian with an accent. They have that accent kind of like I have.
mm-hmm.
But they're happy. They're happy. So like for them, this is home, and they don't want to leave. And it's actually sometimes me and my husband struggle with that too, because we're like, well, what are we going to do here when we get old?
Mm,
Like, I mean, like we're going to retire here? Like, I mean, in Germany of all places. So, I mean, we're probably more worried about it than they are. Like, they are in their element. But my husband and I do think about like, what we'll do. And then we always joke around. We're like, we'll just go to the Netherlands, because the Netherlands is a little bit chicer, because
mm,
they all speak English. We're very close to a city called Maastricht. I don't know if you know that city. It's like actually where they actually signed the papers where the EU was founded. It's this
mm,
lovely little city, a university city. It's so pretty, a lot of history, and it's about like 35 minutes from here. So we're like, all right, we'll just
mm.
go to Maastricht. They speak English there. It's cute. Uh, so we joke around, but my kids they're in their element. They're happy. I mean, for us, it's like we sometimes struggle to like do what the locals do. Like, for example, like little kids here, like 6 years old, they walk to school by themselves. Like,
Mm.
I mean, I would never let my kid in New York walk to school by themselves at like 6 years old. But my neighbors' kids, they were walking to school, but like I wasn't able to make that move. So I was like, I'm walking into school. I mean, I still walk my 8-year-old to the bus.
Mm.
Uh, But now he's like, you're starting to embarrass me. I'm like, all right. So, uh, but and those are my issues. But like, yeah, I mean, they're very independent. They're like German children. They go out by themselves. And the first time I saw like a 6-year-old at a bus stop, I was like, oh my God, I need to pick this kid up. I have to bring him home to his parents because he's by himself waiting for the bus.
Mm.
And then I realized that like he wasn't afraid. He was waiting for the bus because he was going to go to school. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So yeah, they're fine. I'm the one who's not well adjusted, but they are. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity then, so you wouldn't, once you kind of hit retirement, you wouldn't consider going back to the US then? That's not really...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I love New York and I would love to be close to my sister. But I don't even know if I could live there again, I mean, it's hard, and then I also my husband's Italian. So like, I don't know, can he live in New York? I worry about everyone else too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a hard thing. And then like, it's like, and this sounds, but like, where are my kids gonna go? Like, and then, I mean, can I just follow them? They're going to be like, get away from me. But I'm like, wherever you go, I'm coming. So what a disaster. But so I don't know. But my daughter sometimes is like, oh, she's a singer. She's like, oh, I want to go to school in New York. And I'm like, which I would love for her to go to school in New York. But then I'm like, oh my God, she's going to leave me. But look, it's a cycle, it's like, who knows? So yeah, I don't know if I could go back to New York though. I mean, who knows? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could stay in Germany forever either. Like, I don't know if I could stay here forever either. I mean, it's good now and my kids are happy and my husband's happy and I found my peace and I'm happy too. But to stay here forever is such a scary thing.
Yeah.
We actually, we bought, when we bought our house, I was like totally like in a panic because I was like, we're actually buying real estate here. I was like, this is insane. I was like, we're signing papers to buy something. That was really hard.
That's really interesting because that was our first thing we did practically was we bought land. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. So we were all in from the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. No, it took me a while. When I was at the notary and we were signing, I was like, oh my God, I almost had I was like panicking. I was like, we're actually buying property. Because then it's like, it seems so permanent, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an anchor of some sort, right?
It's an anchor. Like, yeah, it's an anchor.
And if you then want to leave, it's like something you have to sort out, and whether you sell it or rent it or whatever.
It's not easy
and then
anymore, right?
no, it's not just you don't just pack up and leave.
You did it right away?
Right?
You did it right away?
Yeah. We had spent, we had done one trip to Belize and then we decided, that we wanted to buy. And we had put an offer on a place, but then COVID hit. And part of the stipulation of the sale was that we had to be able to come back within 14 days of closing to inspect the property to make sure. And then with all the travel bans, we couldn't do that. So that deal that went to the wayside.
Okay.
And then we stayed in Canada and we bought a house there and renovated that and had 2 children. And somewhere in the mix of that, we decided, okay, we're going to look at Belize again. And then we ended up just buying a lot sight unseen. We just
wow.
We knew the area. Yeah, I mean it was a good move. From like at least a investment standpoint for sure.
That's courageous. That's really courageous.
Because property values just went like in the last few years, like it's insane. So in that sense, yeah, it there was a benefit to it then, getting in when we did. But yeah, no, it was definitely a ballsy move. People were like, what are you guys doing? So, and sometimes we're like, what did we do? But no, it has been challenging, but we're kind of settling in finally. Like now that the kids are in school and we're meeting other parents and making friends, and it feels a little bit more
do you
like
want to
stay? Home. But
do you think you could stay?
Yeah, there's certain things about Belize, like there's just the summer here it's so hot, like crazy hot.
Okay.
So we would like to probably do a little bit more traveling, but yeah, we see this as like for sure like a home base and stuff,
It's
and
home. Okay.
our kids can go to school here. But yeah, we would like to do some traveling and stuff, and we're in at the top of Central America, so it's a little bit like, I guess, probably like in the area where you live in Europe, where like there's lots of other neighboring countries, so you have the opportunity to go and travel. Unfortunately, we can't get to South America very quickly over land. You have to take a ferry and stuff because
Okay.
there's this area in the top of Colombia that essentially just is blocked. Essentially, you can't drive south.
Wow.
Essentially,
Okay.
but there's a lot of there's 7 or 8 countries here in the region that we can go and explore
Travel
and
to.
stuff. That's
Okay.
So
That's cool.
that's sort of the plan. But yeah, we don't we like sort of the Caribbean life here, the slower pace, and just a little bit more autonomy here, and it's not so rule driven. Part of that is just the fact that it's a developing country and they don't have the resources to like kind of over govern, like what they kind of do in Canada, and so we do like that. And so yeah, we don't plan on, if we were to leave here, we wouldn't necessarily go back to Canada.
Okay.
But
Got it.
no, but for the foreseeable future, we're here, yeah,
You're
and
here.
we do
Yeah, I
enjoy
don't
it.
think you'd come to, I don't think you'd come to Germany with all the rules. We have like, they have, we have like a noise pollution rule. Like you can't, like you're not allowed to mow your lawn like on Sundays.
Oh
Otherwise
yeah,
they call the police.
that sounds like
Um,
Canada. Yeah.
really? Okay. It's like that
Yeah,
too. Okay.
you can do that as a homeowner, but if you're a
Okay.
business, you're technically
No.
breaking like bylaws
Yeah.
if you do that as a
But yeah,
business.
we have
And there
like
was
a lot
strict
of
like
noise pollution.
morning and evening, like you can't make noise from,
Yeah, no.
I think it's like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 6
Oh
in the
my God.
morning or something like that, which is fair. I mean,
Which is
that's just like,
fair.
that's like respect your neighbors one.
Exactly. Exactly.
But um,
No. But yeah, no. That's
but yeah,
crazy
no,
here.
no, that sounds a lot, yeah, like Canada.
It's like Canada. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and then here, they don't really have that stuff, and every now and then there's, you get people kind of breaking those things a little bit, but yeah, it's more so just like, people, there's like hitchhiking and stuff like that, and not that, because the transportation's not great here, so. But it's, it's kind of, there's a little bit of a charm to it. We'll pick up random people and they get in the car and you have conversations with like local Belizeans and stuff like that. It's been a good way to like really talk to people and get to know
Okay.
some more of the locals and stuff like that. And but like back in Canada, you just, hey, I'm pretty sure it's illegal. You can't hitchhike and it's frowned upon, right? Everyone thinks you're just going to get murdered or something like that by
Sure.
picking up a
Sure.
hitchhiker, and that's really not the case. I mean, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be stopping on the 401 and picking up somebody in the middle of Quebec or something like that.
Exactly.
But still, right? It's just, there's just like like a more relaxed culture here that's, that we're coming to appreciate and enjoy. So if somebody, say a listener, is looking to move in 6 weeks, what's like one thing you would recommend that they get in order to survive the first
In
month
Germany?
abroad,
Okay.
or
Okay.
just anywhere in
Abroad.
general? But
Okay. Yeah, know where you're going, which is the most important thing. Know where you're going and know what you need. So like for example, when I moved from Italy to Germany, and this sounds silly, but like, it rains like probably like 190 days a year here. It rains a lot. Okay. So, I came from Italy where it was like Italians dress for the season. So if it's fall, like even if it's hot out, they're wearing like boots and coats. They don't really care. They dress for the season. But like I moved to Germany thinking I was going to dress for the season, and you need to dress for the weather. So like I had all the wrong shoes, I had all the wrong gear, and I needed to get stuff that like is like waterproof, winterproof, windproof. So know where you're going so that your life is like easier. Know what the environment's like, because that just makes the whole experience better. if you know what you're kind of getting into. Obviously, there's a learning curve, but know where you're going, know what the cultural norms are, know that like you're not going to we're such a global world that you're not going to miss certain products or things. Like you can get stuff wherever you are. There's Amazon, at least I
Yeah.
think. So you can get what you need, but just know where you're going, what that environment's like, and try to prep yourself for it as best as you can. And make sure you have like, good internet, because it takes a while. It took a while to get internet in Germany. It took us like, the process was so slow. It took us like 3 months for us to finally get internet. And it was like, that's
Oh,
your lifeline. It's your lifeline
yeah.
to your family. It's your lifeline to work. It's your lifeline to friends. So make sure you have good internet so that you can just stay connected. And
Yeah, we thought that was just a Caribbean thing because it took us a
no,
while
it
to
took a
get
while
that
here.
too.
Yeah, did it
Okay,
really?
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it took a while, like 3 months to get internet here.
Yeah, it took us, I
Craziness.
think,
Yeah.
two months or something like that. So, I mean, it's not a big area that we live, but no, that's great advice because
Okay.
there's never really like, it might seem obvious, but it's like actually there's no, when you're moving abroad, there's no like, nothing is really obvious because it's like you're entering into a new culture and your preconceived notions of where you came from don't map on to like a new place. So, right. So even just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, like dress for the weather and not for the season, right? I mean, I totally get that. I mean, here it's a little bit easier, just like you wear very little just because it's so hot. But it's just like, yeah, like even, we're dealing with lots of bugs and even just the fact that like here is, we didn't really realize it, as silly as it might seem, but like it's always summer here. So it's like,
Okay.
oh, wait, you're running air conditioning 12 months of the year, right? And like
Wow.
what
Wow.
does that cost, right? And a lot of people don't necessarily think
Mm-hmm.
that, and that becomes a big sticker shock. But like you just didn't think about it because back home it's like you only run air conditioning for, in Canada at least, for like 4 months maybe.
Months. Right.
Yeah, right. And you have, so yeah, stuff like that, right? You just don't really think about it, but yeah, and once you know it, you're like, oh, this seems obvious, but you don't think about it at the time. Well, it's been great chatting with you. This has been a lovely conversation. Where can people find more about you and your book, SOS Podcast?
Sure. So I have a website. It's my name, which is rosamariamancini.com. And there's links to my socials and my book, which you can get anywhere you get your books. So Amazon in the US, Barnes and Nobles. Basically, it's Amazon for the rest of the world. So anywhere you get your books, you can find my book. And it talks a lot about my podcast listening habit and how it basically helped me survive and adjust to life in Germany.
And lastly, what's your favorite podcast?
My favorite podcast? That's really hard. That's a really hard question. Can I give you two?
Sure.
Okay. So obviously I like the Daily because I listen to the New York Times. I read the New York Times and I listen to the Daily regularly. So I love the Daily. But I also like long form storytelling podcasts. So, podcasts that have a beginning, middle, and end. So I was obviously a big fan of Serial. I love Serial, but I just started listening to Preventionist, which is a new podcast. Fascinating story. So I'm going to put Serial on there because it's just the god of all podcasts. And I like the Daily. But I love NPR. It's really hard. This is a difficult question for me to pick a podcast. So
No, I know
you
it
put me
is.
on the spot, but that's
It's
okay.
probably unfair question
Yeah.
because I don't even know
Oh my God.
if I could really answer that
Yeah, that's
either.
hard. It's hard.
Someone who's like listened to podcasts for I don't even know, probably close to 20 years now, I think.
Okay.
So like from very early on. So
What's your favorite podcast? Can I ask you?
yeah, there's been so many over the years. I do listen to the Sam Harris podcast quite a bit.
Okay.
He just covers like a wide ranging like topics and anything from like science and I guess like spirituality and meditation and stuff all the way into politics. And so I listen to that quite regularly to just sort of get a read on sort of what's going on kind of in the US and in the world. and I really enjoyed, if you like you like long form content, and if you like history, hardcore history is really great. It does kind of tend to be like a little bit maybe on the more like violent side and war and stuff like that, but that's something that I studied in university too. It was world wars and stuff like that, so it's an interest of mine. But I don't listen to that one as much as I used to, just because they are incredibly long. Some of the episodes are like 4 hours long, and I just don't have the time. But he is the host is like extremely talented just speaker. So he'll do these 4-hour long podcasts, but he doesn't script them. So he does all of his research, and then it's all off the cuff.
Oh, wow.
So if you ever listen to an episode and then you know that about it, it's like, it's kind of mind blowing that he's able to, because he's like drawing, like he'll pull quotes and stuff like that, but it's all stuff that he's like remembered essentially. So it's pretty amazing.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Okay. Cool.
Well, thanks for coming on. This was great. It was nice to meet you, and all the best.
Thanks so much for having me. I had a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, and best of luck to you with everything.
Yeah, thank you, and you too.
Okay. Take care.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.